This thing working? Okay, let's just test to see if this is working. Certainly taking a moment to start up here. Sorry, my internet connection is not optimal. There. Is this working? Alright, it's taking forever to load. Here we go. This seems to be working now. So I wanted to address a few issues that are of critical importance when challenging Jewish tyranny and Jewish power. I've had a lot of people criticize me saying that you're being a Wignat, or you're being a white nationalist, or whatever. As of 2 years ago, 55% of white Americans feel that the system doesn't represent them and that there is active, systemized discrimination, systemic discrimination against whites. And they are being oppressed. We are being oppressed. And so long as we refuse to think of ourselves as a group, we will continue to be oppressed. If you look at what the Jewish elites have pushed with the media, if you look at the way the Jews cover anyone who advocates for white interests anywhere in the world, they demonize them. And you have to know what the enemy demonizes if you want to know what they truly fear. They fear group solidarity approaching even just a fraction of intensity that they have in terms of their group solidarity. When the Palestinians wish to organize against Israeli occupation, their only option is to work together as a group. When the Romans invaded Germania, or ancient Teutonic or Germanic lands across the Danube River, it wasn't a bunch of individuals saying, hey, this is wrong what the Romans are doing, will you all just agree with me that what they're doing is wrong, and then we as individuals will oppose them? No, he appealed to nationalism, the group cohesion, to bring together the people into a force that could resist the foreign occupation, and they successfully did this. The point I'm making is that anyone who is saying that whites shouldn't be nationalistic, or whites, in other words, shouldn't organize as a group, is either very short-sighted or doesn't understand their history, or if they're anonymous, they're most likely a shill for Jewish power. I am white. I care about my group, and white doesn't include Jews. I care about all oppressed peoples, and I care especially about my group, my genetic kin. White people, 55% of which 2 years ago thought they were being systematically oppressed. No other people on earth is demonized when they organized for the defense and advocacy for their own people. And at the same time, I'm telling people that have a problem with Jewish power, that they can't be attacking white people that advocate for whites as a group. They can't be attacking what they call white nationalists. At the same time, I tell those of you who are whites, who identify as part of your group, which is necessary to us pulling ourselves up by the bootstrap, in my opinion, don't attack non-whites who have a problem with Jewish power when they attack you. Don't become defensive. Say, okay, you're attacking me for being white and advocating for white group interests. Instead of just attacking back and calling them names or lobbing insults, ask them logically, what other group isn't allowed to advocate for itself? And how do you wish to challenge Jewish power if you have a Palestinian or an Armenian community that feels solidarity and has a sense of cohesion where they come together as a group and they have the full armor of the group on themselves where they'll overlap their shields with one another? If they won't deny the right to collective advocacy for other groups, they can't deny it for whites. Take that approach. Do not just start saying, oh, you are this or that, or hurl an insult at their group. I even run into some white people who legitimately are still brainwashed into thinking that whites can't have group advocacy, that it equals 6 million dead Jews killed in gas chambers disguised as showers. We have to come through the other side of this without any Jewish propaganda still in our heads. We have to advocate for our people. And we have to be willing to work with other people who advocate for their people. And I'm seeing a lag in the chat here. Is this on my end? Am I still streaming? Just a moment here. We're having, looks like an uplink or download problem. And can you guys still hear me? Is this still, can you confirm that I'm still streaming? Because on my end it's showing that the stream is shut down. I'm sorry for the delay here. I just need to verify that I'm still streaming or else I'm just talking to myself. So just a moment here. Is this working? Can somebody in the chat let me know whether or not the stream is still working? Am I back? Am I back? Okay. Okay, it's working. Good. So the point I'm making is that I'm making 2 points here. Number one, we have to work with non-whites who also feel the symptoms of Jewish tyranny and Jewish supremacism. But at the same time, we must not only demand our rights from the Jewish elite that refuses us our rights, we must also demand that our rights as a group and our right to collective activism be recognized by the other groups that challenge Jewish supremacism, whose people feel the jackboot of Jewish tyranny on their group's neck. And what you're going to have then is Jewish divide and conquer happen. So if you have a group of whites here and a group of Palestinians and Armenians and what have you, Assyrians that all want to advocate for themselves as a group, what you're going to have then is Jews come in and try and get between the groups and say, hey, Armenians, hey, Palestinians, hey, Assyrians, hey, Arabs, hey, whoever is organizing and advocating for themselves as a group. You can't let whites organize as a group. You can only deal with individual whites who have a problem with Jewish power, but not one that come together strong and say they have the right to collectively negotiate the interests of their people with the others. And that's what I advocate. You have a lot of shills calling me pro-violence or these other things, and no, it is not tantamount to violence to say that whites must advocate for their people as a group. And with us now approaching 65-70% of whites that feel that they're being systematically oppressed, the necessity of group identity and group organization is going to be embraced. The sooner that it is embraced, the less damage these Jewish supremacists will be able to do on their way out the door. So I say specifically that I am a huge fan of people who aren't white challenge Jewish power. I want Ryan Dawson to know I am a huge fan, and it takes moral courage and at times physical courage to do what he's doing. And I honor him as a man as someone who challenges Jewish supremacism, and as someone who is willing, more so than most others, to give an ear or lend his ear to people who are part of a dogmatized group, such as white nationalists. But what I do ask is that gentlemen like Mr. Dawson and others, even if they agree with us where we say that Jewish supremacism is a problem, we also ask them to check their double standards at the door and recognize that whites advocating for themselves as a group, which all groups have advocated for themselves as a group, all leaders, true leaders of groups, advocate for their people as a group, recognize without double standard the right of whites to do this. If you look at the discrimination that whites are facing, if you look at just how open-minded and nice white people have been to the point where we won't even have any countries in the future, not even our ancestral homelands that were 100% European a few decades ago, you have to recognize that whites and Palestinians are the same now. We are all Palestinians. This is the theme that I am going to be bringing to my protest outside of AIPAC, and I invite anyone to join as individual private citizens, me, as I counter-protest Jewish supremacism. And as I tell the people there, I hope there will be a lot of Palestinians there advocating for their people. I'll be advocating for Palestinians too, but I'll also be advocating for white people and any other group that is oppressed by Jewish tyranny. The Assyrians, the Syrians, the Lebanese, Christian or Muslim. I don't care. If you're oppressed by Jews, I'm here for you, and I need you to vote for me. You need to vote for me. And I proudly bear the title of Palestinian, if they'll let me, in that we are all Palestinians now. The Jews seek to displace whites from their countries the same way they wish to displace Palestinians. They wish to take from the Palestinians. What's being done to the Palestinians is a little bit more direct than what's happening to whites, and what they're doing to whites is more by proxy. But if you're a white man or a woman and you're sick of what the Jews are doing to white people, how we're being disenfranchised, being ethnically cleansed, the conditions for genocide laid out by the UN in the late 40s, 1950s are every single one of those boxes is checked as to what Jews are doing to whites. And it's also being done to Palestinians. So if you're white, you must have empathy. I demand that you have empathy for the other groups that the Jews have targeted for extermination. And I also demand that those other groups have no double standards when evaluating whites and our evolutionary responses to Jewish supremacism. When we come together once again as a group, as 109 nations have before in the past, and say, we will not be slaves to the Jews. We will not be destroyed. We will not be taxed. We will not be ruled over by foreign entities, such as this international Jewish banking system, their media, their whole global, rootless, cosmopolitan community of Jewish supremacists. My main message for this tonight, and please come join me in D.C. as we protest Jewish supremacism and foreign tyranny over our country. Join me in saying we are all Palestinians now, and join me in doing the moral and logical thing to do. It is a moral and a logical imperative that we oppose Jewish tyranny, and it is also a strategic and tactical imperative that we embrace all other groups as friends in the common struggle for liberation from Jewish supremacism. And that is my olive branch and my hand that I'm reaching out to all peoples, regardless of religion, regardless of race, regardless of your creed or your ideology. If you see what the Jews are doing to your people or another people is wrong, you need to drop this Jewish programming that somehow whites advocating for themselves as a group is somehow wrong or not allowed. Drop that. Without us, without whites as your ally in advocating for the Palestinians are going to be ground to dust by these Jews. Without whites advocating as a group, because it's a very powerful bloc and it's waking up, advocating alongside the Syrians, the Lebanese, the Iraqis, the Assyrians, all the other groups targeted for extermination in the Middle East. Without us by your side, You won't get the Jews out of power in our countries, and without the Jews out of power in white countries and Western countries, we will continue to have our sons and daughters deployed as mercenaries for Israel while your nations are ground to dust. So I say, set aside the Jewish propaganda. See beyond the Jewish Hollywood memes. See beyond the dogma of the day. And embrace with an open mind those people that would willingly stand by your side and die as martyrs, as brothers and sisters in the struggle against Jewish supremacism. Firm belief in the final victory of all formerly free peoples in our struggle against the international Jewish tyrant. Have a good night, Goyim, and hopefully I see some of you outside of AIPAC struggling for our respective people's survivals. There it is.